How y'all feeling? How y'all living? It's AC Lucky back with another reaction video. Today's reaction video, we finna react to the man who sold his soul to the devil. To me, I believe in selling your soul is real. Cause like, you ever just seen somebody, it's like they not really entertaining, but it's like out of nowhere they just start blowing up out of nowhere, and it's like it was like they got a whole fan base out of nowhere. Like you had never heard of them or nothing. They just come out of nowhere. I believe in selling your soul. I believe like half of the people that we watch on YouTube, they big and they got all them numbers. I believe they sold out, bro. Come for me or not, but we finna react to it. What y'all think about this? But before we get to the reaction video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. Ain't nothing but lit daily content over here, you feel me? Robert Johnson. Okay, you could play that motherfucker. I heard he was a trash musician.
His music made him one of the most iconic figures in his genre. He is cemented as a legend. And yet, very little is known about Robert Johnson. 29 songs, 2 verified photographs, and hundreds of unanswered questions. Johnson's life, his story, and his artistry is wrapped in mystery to this day, but his music resonates with millions. However, Johnson wasn't always a brilliant musician. In fact, he was considered to be relatively untalented, even up until his early 20s. Allegedly, he improved rapidly on the guitar. So much so that a legend was born that Johnson sold his soul to the devil so that he could become a master of the guitar. Johnson passed away under mysterious circumstances at 27 years old, giving birth to the infamous 27 Club and adding yet another question mark onto his already confusing story.
Oh, let's get interesting.
Robert was born on the 8th of May, 1911, to parents Julia Dodds and Noah Johnson in Hazelhurst, Mississippi. His mother had already given birth to 10 kids with her husband Charles, but Robert was born out of wedlock, illegitimately, and had a father who he most likely never met or spoke to. His stepfather, Charles, was a reasonably successful landowner, but after getting into a dispute with a lynch mob, he was forced to move to Memphis, and Robert would eventually be sent there to live with him until he was around 8 or 9 years old. At that age, he moved back to Mississippi to live with his mother and her new husband, Dusty Willis. In his teenage years, Robert began to gain an interest in music and dabbled in some different aspects of it. He learned the basics of the guitar from one of his brothers, and he was cited as being a talented harmonica player. We can also assume that he was writing songs and singing during this time. But all of this wasn't very appealing to his new stepfather, who wanted him to work on the plantation fields. This would lead to a conflict between the two, and while he was still a teenager, Robert would try and find his own freedom and independence. This started when he was 19. He married a 16-year-old Virginia Travis on the 17th of February, 1929, but unfortunately, she would die a year later while giving birth. Robert was now a 20-year-old widow with a stepfather he didn't like, a father he never met, and a wife who had just passed away. And lest we forget, he was an African-American man living in the South in the early 20th century. Basically, Robert had an intense childhood, and his adult life wasn't looking very good either. At this stage, all Robert really had was his music.
Son House. Okay, it's getting interesting. I want to know how he sold his soul.
It was around this time that legendary blues icon Son House moved to a town that was near where Robert lived. All of a sudden, a lost and impressionable Robert Johnson was listening to one of the greatest blues artists of his generation perform live every week at the local juke joint. At this point, Robert had some musical ability, but it was mainly at the previously mentioned harmonica, so he wasn't considered talented enough to perform at these establishments, but during the breaks, Johnson would ask if he could play their guitars. In one of the most famous interviews ever given about Robert Johnson, Son House states that he was terrible and that he was often asked to stop playing.
Damn, they hated him.
Around on Saturday night, yeah, Willie Brown. And every time we stopped for rest and sit there, little guitar over in the corner or something, and go out to catch air, you know, get the guitar and be trying to play and be just noising the people, you know. And the folks would come out and say, why don't y'all, some of y'all go in there and make that boy put get that thing down, he running us crazy.
Johnson may have been in the correct environment to observe the music he wanted to play, but because of his lack of resources and the ridicule he was subjected to when he attempted to perform, he was in the wrong environment to learn. This may have been the reason he left. He did remarry in 1931, but that didn't stop him from traveling around the South for about a year. This is a confusing space of time that is responsible for many of the myths revolving around Johnson. Some people speculated that he left to try and find his biological father, while others believed that he was exclusively focusing on improving his craft. But the other theory, and strangely the most popular one, is that Robert Johnson made a deal with the devil.
The deal with the devil.
The story goes that Robert Johnson went to a local crossroads with his guitar before midnight. He started playing his songs, and at midnight, the devil appeared. The devil took the guitar and tuned it, played a song, and gave it back to Johnson. This was the transaction, the turning point for Johnson as a musician. He had given up his soul to the devil himself and was a master of guitar. But with this, his soul was doomed to hell, and an untimely demise was in his future. The reason people believe that this is what happened is because of a man named Lodell Johnson, who in 1971 said that this was the way to sell your soul, and that his brother Tommy had actually done this. There was no relation between Tommy and Robert, but that didn't stop people from taking this tale and attaching it to Robert's name. At least that's how the story goes. It's obviously a far-fetched tale, but it shows us how impressive and quick Johnson's improvement must have been. The only way the public were able to justify his talents was with a story that was this insane, which in itself tells us why Robert Johnson was so good. One thing is almost certain. Between the years of 1930 and 1932, something happened that made Johnson go from being considered embarrassingly bad to one of the greatest guitarists of all time. When he finally returned to play for Son House, nobody was telling him to stop. He was so good, when he finished, all our mouths were standing open. Johnson took his new talents and began traveling with fellow artist Johnny Shines, where he improved his craft.
His name Cockroach or
but he
something.
still hadn't recorded anything, his talents were being wasted. It was the mid-1930s and his second wife had passed away. Johnson was trying to record and make a name for himself. He went into a man named H.C. Spears' store, who worked for the ARC record label. Finally, in November of 1936, Johnson was in a studio recording the first of his almost 30 songs. He would continuously return to record until the summer of 1937. He made okay money doing this and had amassed a small but loyal fan base, but Johnson wasn't a household name by any means. His music had some dark undertones. Songs like Me and the Devil Blues, If I Had Possession Over Judgment Day, Hellhound on My Trail, and of course, Crossroad Blues. Dark themes like hell, the devil, and death were prominent in his music, and this did nothing but add fuel to his already dark image. But this was par for the course for blues. These weren't new thematic explorations, they were cemented attributes of the genre, but people emphasized Johnson's dark lyrics to add to the narrative, even though there were hundreds of similar acts doing the same thing. Regardless, the recordings were done, and unfortunately, that would be Johnson's entire discography, because a year later, he would die.
Damn. That's crazy. He was sacrificing his wives. Ain't no way his wives was like, go like that, you feel me? What y'all think about this reaction video? What y'all think about selling your soul? And like, how y'all feel about that word? I really don't like that word, but it's like, it be happening. Like, these YouTubers really be going like that. That's why you gotta stick with your morals. I'm gonna stand by my morals forever. You feel me? That man right there, he living through me, you feel me? But anyway, I'm AC Luck and I'm signing out. This is the end of the reaction video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video.